Okay, so let's move into the fourth part of the brain, which is the largest section of the brain, the cerebrum. The cerebrum is the thinking part of our brain. So when you're thinking about the four parts of the brain, the brainstem, the cerebellum, and the diencephalon are kind of autonomic stuff. All right. The cerebrum is your conscious thinking brain that controls your body. And it's also the reasoning and intelligent part of your brain. Now, this is going to take the rest of the chapter until the summary. So, the cerebrum, if we look at it here, it just says that it's the largest part of the brain. It's divided into a left hemisphere and a right hemisphere, and it has those lobes that you have to learn in lab. So it's divided really into 5 lobes. Our lab only has 4 lobes, but there's a 5th lobe called the insula that is kind of underneath the temporal lobe. But we have the frontal, parietal, occipital, and temporal lobes. And in this class, we want to know function. So we're going to be looking at the different functions of these lobes. In lab, you need to know where they are, be able to name them, parts and pieces. This class, I really want to talk about their functions. This is really interesting to me, and I just think it's fascinating that different areas of the brain control such specific functions. And we're going to be looking at that. All right, so don't forget that the cortex of the brain is the outer surface. The medulla is more in the center. And a big part of what the cerebrum is going to be controlling are motor control and sensory control. Now, remember, a big chunk of this has to do with our precentral and postcentral gyrus. And what's really interesting here is I have in this diagram a representation of what the pre and post central gyrus controls. Now remember, the motor areas of your brain, motor is from brain to body, these motor areas are controlled by a part of the cerebrum called the precentral gyrus. And this is a cutaway, a sagittal cut. Actually, it's a frontal cut of this precentral gyrus. Now, what's really crazy about this is that specific parts of the precentral gyrus control your muscles to specific parts of your body. All right? So, for example, if you look at this, this is the side of your brain. This is the top of your brain. The precentral gyrus, this area in your longitudinal fissure, this area controls your lower extremities, your toes, your ankle, your knees, hips, the trunk of your body, all right here at the top of the precentral gyrus. Then your shoulders, elbows, and wrist are controlled by the top of your precentral gyrus. The hand, with all of the muscles of the hand, is kind of the top side portion. Then it says your mouth and face, neck, eyebrows, eyelids, face, with vocalization, salivation, mastication, swallowing, tongue movements, jaw movements, lip movements. That's all on the side of your precentral gyrus. So when you go to wiggle your nose or to grab a bottle with your hands or to kick a soccer ball with your feet, those signals are going to move from our precentral gyrus down to the body to do those muscular functions. So these are very specific. Now, compare that to the sensory. Now, with sensory, that's remember, body to brain. So this information is moving into the brain, and where it moves into, so you can sense through touch those areas of skin that are affected, they are going through the postcentral gyrus. So this postcentral gyrus, look, they're very similar in how they're set up, but the postcentral gyrus is receiving information. So the information that your body is receiving, look at this, the genital area, toes, feet, leg, they are all in this longitudinal fissure. Your legs and arms are all on the top of your postcentral gyrus. Hands, very sensitive. I mean, when you think about your hands, all that information is moving into the top and side of your postcentral gyrus. Then your face, with your eyes, nose, face, and lips, they are all on the side of the postcentral gyrus. Look how big the sensory area for your lips are. Lips are very sensitive. Now, that's a homeostatic thing when you think about it, because if you touch potential food to your lips and you have a reaction, or it's very sensitive, or it's too hot, or it's too cold, you sense that right away and you know not to put that in your mouth. Or you know that it's okay to put it in your mouth. So the precentral and postcentral sensory areas or sensory and motor areas are controlled by this pre and postcentral gyrus. They each have a specific area for specific function. Now, also, what's really cool about this is that the left side of your brain, so my left precentral gyrus and my left postcentral gyrus, are going to control my right side of my body. The right side of my brain controls the left side of my body. So when I am using my right hand, let's say I have this pen, and I'm using this pen in my hand, it's the left side of my brain, that left precentral gyrus, that's telling my fingers to grab it, to hold it. And then what I'm feeling with that is going up to the left side of my postcentral gyrus, where I'm receiving sensory information. So the sides of the brain that control your motor and sensory are going to be opposite to your body. This can come in really handy, for example, with someone who has had a stroke. If someone's had a stroke and it's affecting, let's say, their right hand, if that stroke's affecting my right hand, they automatically know that that stroke damaged the left side of the brain in that precentral gyrus area. So we could look at it and say, okay, it's left side precentral gyrus if it's affecting my right hand. If I'm having trouble moving my right hand, we know that that's the precentral gyrus. If the person is having trouble feeling their right hand, that would be the left side of the postcentral gyrus. Pretty cool how this works. All right, so the next video we're going to get into handout 14C, which is really extensive. It's going to take some time to go over these motor and sensory areas of the cerebrum. So that will be next. We'll talk about some specific functions of specific lobes and regions of our brain.